Historians. Well, we don't want to say this is a love letter because men often expressed affection differently back then, so this person wasn't gay, they were just friends. The letter in question. Hey babe, I can't wait for you to raw me tonight. Aw man, I love you so much, dear husband. Love having amazing homosexual intercourse with you. I think of your face every time my wife makes me fuck her. You are my soulmate, I am gay.
Friends. Best friends.
Friends. Just best friends.
Such good, very good friends.
Just friends. There are only 2 genders. People really like showing off their denial on facts on here. There are more than 2 genders, dumb fuck. I don't give a fuck what you think. Maybe read better next time. It doesn't matter what I think. You are logically incorrect. You have a dick or you don't. It's not hard. That's pretty funny. That's a dick joke. That's sex, not gender. You're saying all this shit like it wasn't made up. No, you're just declaring it as fact with no proof whatsoever. What? Do they not understand the concept of what gender is?
Read a book. No, they don't. That's entirely the point.
When my BFF gets a girl and she spends more time with her than with me, break up with your girlfriend because I'm bored. I want to say that, like, BFFs, like, 2 of people of the same sex can be friends. But also, like, homosexuality.
It exists. Well, and
it exists.
In this case, let's not fetishize it, please.
Exactly. And my last one is just a bunch of pictures of Freddie Mercury with the caption, unreleased photographs of Freddie Mercury along with his personal friends who knew him well and participated in his stunning celebrations of life. These pictures are of Freddie Mercury naked with a bunch of other naked men.
With a bunch. Hey, and I think even at the time, the stories were pretty clear, but I think afterwards we've learned Freddie could get it.
He could get it.
What's your source for these?
This is the Sappho and Her Friends Reddit. Please go and check it out. It is amazing. I love Sappho, and I love gay erasure to look at, not in reality. I am Anna, a transgender woman.
And I'm Cam, your dad.
And this is The Transgender, a podcast chronicling my transition.
And a cisgender man learning to support it.
Are animals trans?
Well, I mean,
I want your raw, do you think that animals can be trans?
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, I think I have seen at least the meme versions of what trans animals might look like, but my gut feeling says yes. I think just as much as a human being struggles with whether they are the same gender as their sex that they were born with, I can absolutely see the animal kingdom representing that in many different ways.
Yeah, so you brought up penguins, which I think is an excellent place to get to.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I wanted to start with the animals that literally will change their sex characteristics throughout their lifetime, such as clownfish. And they do this because of a biological need to, where, you know, I think there's only like one female or like a few females or vice versa that for males, and they have like a biological need to reproduce, and so one of them will just be like, well, the female died or the male died, and so now it's me. I'm going to be that person now. And clownfish are not the only animals to do this. I know there are wrasses, moray eels, gobies, and other fish species to just change their sex.
What was the first one you said?
Wrasses.
All right. I don't know what a wrassus is.
It's like it's a really pretty fish. You should look them up. They're really cool.
All right.
Yeah. They're brightly colored. This one that I'm looking at is like, it looks very gay. It's like neon green with like blue and red and everything. It's really the very cool fish. The spelling is Wrasses. Check them out. They're really cool.
Oh, they're very pretty.
They're so pretty. I know.
Look at them.
Right?
Oh, it's a friend with a human face. Oh, God. They got some big lips sometimes.
On top of fish just sometimes being like, nah, today I'm going to take on the role of the female in this reef. Birds. Birds are trans. I've decided this. I'm diagnosing them as gender.
I mean, we already talked about Birdo or Birdetta.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. I just want to read the first few couple sentences of this article on the JSTOR, which is a scholarly article collection website. This article is by Juliet Lamb. It was published on October 6th of 2016. And it starts off, I spent last week at a bird conference in North Carolina, a state where gender identity has been at the forefront of conversation. Between scientific talks, I sat down with a group of conference attendees to discuss how we could better include underrepresented voices in our research. Inevitably, as always seems to happen when scientists attempt to discuss non-scientific concepts, we found ourselves drawing on examples from our work, in our case, wildlife biology. We tend to think of gender expression, and especially gender nonconformity, as uniquely human. However, many other species gain distinct advantages by projecting an appearance that doesn't, quote, match, unquote, their biological sex. Juliet brings up snakes, lizards, beetles, fish, and birds all exhibit behaviors that align with transgender concepts in humans. So, right. Acting like females to gain advantages, reduce competition, gain better territory, or improve mating opportunities. Which I think is wicked. Like, can we just talk about these birds that, like, are like, well, I don't really want to, like, have this really big, beautiful plume. So instead I'm going to, like, keep my plume kind of hidden. And then I will, like, run around and try and mate with all the females who aren't getting mated with the males. And then, like, when I grow up to be big and strong, then I'll, like, grow this big plumage and be like, bitches, I'm here.
So, making a hard pivot from other species, let's talk about humans a little bit here. And in particular, I'm really upset with humans who have power in our society right now, because there is an awful lot of anti-trans legislation being presented in state legislatures across the United States, including in our own state right now. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with politics and get some reaction from you about what that all looks like.
Yeah, you know, I don't follow politics as closely as I know a lot of people do. Mainly that's because I don't have enough mental capacity in my life to follow all of what politics are doing. But when it comes time to, like, actually following topics that I really care about, like trans topics, I do try and follow along. And I just have to say, fuck what's going on in trans politics right now. It is so bad with all of the sports bills that are going out, and I'm sure that we'll get into a lot more. But yeah, just let's stop being transphobic, please.
Let's start with the sports bill, because you brought that up. So a lot of states are presenting bills related to trans athletics, given the political and media discourse that's going on around that. So most of these bills, I mean, we're looking at, you know, one in probably half of states right now. A lot of them have language like, if you are going to participate in a sport, it will be based on your biological sex. And here are 3 ways we will determine your biological sex. And I'm so sorry because this is really triggering. But The student's internal and external reproductive anatomy is the very first one. Okay, now if we can't figure that out, then the second is the normal levels of testosterone, whatever that means. And then if that can't determine, then they do an analysis of the student's genetic makeup. So those are the 3 benchmarks.
So we're first going to strip kids down and look at their genitalia. Then we're going to subject children to societal standards of what men and women are supposed to be like, with how, you know, our bodies produce hormones. And then they're going to be like, well, we still don't have clear enough evidence, so let's get a fucking genetic test up in here and measure your fucking chromosomes, which, as we have discussed so many goddamn times, is actually nothing.
And let me say that the word testosterone here is extremely important, because all of these bills are targeted specifically at trans women.
Looking for positivity within our community? Then listen to Queer We Are, the podcast where you hear some of the most interesting and successful LGBTQ+ people share uplifting stories, including their definition of success, how they achieved it, and what they learned along the way. Guests include celebrities, activists, politicians, athletes, and many more. Click the link in the show notes and check us out, or go to queerweare.com. If you've been looking for both fun and inspiration, now you know where to find us. Queer We Are.
Oh, yeah, no, sports bills are always targeted at trans women. Like, it's the thought that men and people who are assigned male at birth are inherently better at sports because of some nonsense reason, which I just find fucking ridiculous. Like, I suck at sports, and I know a million other women who could kick my fucking ass if they wanted to. So...
Let's get close to home for you and I and say what I just read you about those sort of 3 litmus tests comes from the Arizona bill. But hey, guess who also has that written in their bill? Minnesota. Our bill contains that. The only difference in language is the number 3 in the benchmark is to analyze a student's chromosomes.
So that's really specific about nonsense science. I love that. Thanks for making it clear that Minnesota legislatures know nothing about genetics and know nothing about what makes somebody who they are.
And the lobbying groups that push these bills send a lot of this language out to legislators for them to just be able to copy and paste, which is why so many of these are very similar. And where they get even more similar is when you look at anti-trans health bills. So there are, I think, I'm counting about 10 of those that are being presented right now, and they almost all say exactly the same thing. And that is some varying level of... This bill will make it a felony for any healthcare professional to affirm a youth's gender by means of appropriate medically recommended treatment. It includes the word appropriate, by the way.
So they agree that trans youth and trans people in general, it is appropriate for us to take the medical necessary steps for our transition. But they're like, but yes, doctors and other healthcare providers can be found legally negligent, was it, for affirming a youth's gender identity. That's bullshit.
Well, and this is specifically, it is a felony to affirm a youth's gender to recommend them for treatment. So it's not a felony to recognize the gender of a youth, but
it is to say, like, you should probably go for hormone therapy or something like that. That's just utter nonsense.
I have diagnosed you with dysphoria, and we have medical care that we can provide for that. And it is now a felony to provide that kind of medical care. In a couple of states, there's also this sort of new thing that our Republican folks in the United States like to be adding to these sorts of bills, which is the private right to sue. And we saw this in California with abortion as a tool for... I saw somebody do something, and I have the right now to sue you personally for seeing that you provided abortion care for somebody.
I, quote, saw you do something, end quote.
Right.
You know, it's not... Oh, you told me this really personal fact about yourself that you got an abortion or something like that. Well, now I'm going to sue you. You know, like, that's the kind of shit that we're talking about. There's no, like... I saw you walk into an abortion clinic and I'm going to sue you for that. Like, that happens so irregularly in my research and experience that, you know, these are just he said, she said cases.
I agree. And so that makes it even scarier. It's scary that we've added this right for private lawsuits for things that are not affecting the other party, except for in this sort of my morality is at issue here, I guess, is where they are playing that out. But
my morality is tarnished. How dare you?
I thought about you having an abortion, and now I'm questioning my religion. I mean, I don't even know how that morality piece can go. So the last kind of bills that I want to talk about are education bills right now. And in particular, in this country, there's a lot of legislation around, quote unquote, critical race theory.
God.
I don't want to talk about critical race theory because that's a different podcast. What I want to talk about is intersectionality in education legislation, because a number of these bills that are specifically targeting critical race theory add in this sort of overarching disclaimer that as an educator, you cannot require your students to learn about how they have historically oppressed people based on their sex, their gender, their sexuality, their race, their religion.
Yep.
I mean, any of those kinds of factors that you cannot make a student feel bad for what their ancestors might have done. And that is very scary because that is erasing history and not allowing educators to talk about important issues about oppression in our history.
This is complete bullshit. Like, history is meant to help us learn and make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. What these people are basically saying is, oh, things like the Holocaust or the slave trade. No, you know what? Those are okay. We can actually talk about, we don't need to talk about those, because if they happen again, like, we'll deal with it. And like, no, we won't. No, we won't. We will die. All of us who are listening to this podcast will probably die. So let's maybe talk about it.
If you don't talk about history, you're doomed to repeat it. And this is my take on that. There is a section of our country that wants to repeat history. And that is the scariest part. And that part of our country has become more vocal and more prominent in our view in the last 6 years than I ever thought could possibly be. So let's get to the lighter note, because I think you will appreciate this. There are a number of prominent trans individuals in office in our country, and I want to start right in our own backyard here. Andrea Jenkins made history in 2017, the first African-American openly trans woman elected to office in the entire United States. She serves on the Minneapolis City Council and recently was unanimously chosen as the council's president.
It's such a big step forward. And like, there are a lot of issues with Minnesota, but I can appreciate that we are a very good source for trans representation and moving forward the transgender values and our importance in society and as a people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky to live in this state.
I'm so happy. Like, and that's not to say, like, Minnesota, like I said, has a lot of our own problems. Just like every state does.
A few more folks that I wanted to highlight here. Danica Roem was elected not long after Andrea Jenkins was first elected. Danica was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates in 2017, winning against an opponent who called himself Virginia's chief homophobe.
Oh, I remember this.
Good job, Virginia. And was reelected in 2019. Sarah McBride is the first openly transgender state senator serving in the Delaware Senate. They were elected in 2020 and is the highest ranking transgender elected official in the U.S. right now. They also had started in 2012 by working for the White House as the first openly transgender person there, and was the first openly transgender person to talk at a Democratic National Convention, which is a big platform for someone who is trans.
Very, very big platform.
A couple more I want to highlight. Mahogany was elected to the Democratic County Central Committee in March 2020, and then again in 2021. Mahogany, well known for being on season 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race, so that was pretty cool as well.
Nice.
And then the last one I want to talk about was Jerry Cannon and Lisa Bunker, who were both elected in 2018 to the New Hampshire legislature. And that makes them the only state with 2 transgender lawmakers serving simultaneously. In 2019, they co-sponsored a transgender rights bill, adding gender identity to the state's existing non-discrimination legislation, and then a separate bill adding a gender marker of X for other on New Hampshire's driver's license.
Woo! By the way, to all my non-binary folks, please look into this the next time you renew your license, because we do have that in Minnesota, and it is fantastic.
And this is why diverse representation in politics is so absolutely vital, because there are so many things that can make everyone's life better when we have more voices at the table.
What, you're saying that straight white men don't understand what it's like to be trans, gay, not white, something like that?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know those things. Not I don't say that. Oh, no. I said the wrong thing. No, I mean, we're talking about politics, and I'm always a person who says I want to see people who don't look like me in politics, and I will happily work the campaigns and support the politicians who are going to be able to bring diverse voices. It's one thing to be able to come there with an equity and justice lens as a white man, a middle-aged white man, but it's much better to have somebody there who actually has the lived experience and can represent the needs of people who are not middle-aged white men. So that leads me to what can you do? And, I think the easy answer for me is if you are a trans person who might have served on debate team, whether you did or not, and you have some idea of the issues that are important to you, getting involved in politics is huge. And it seems like a pretty high barrier, but there's actually a lot of roles in politics that you can play to sort of get your toes in the water. Being a delegate for your state, serving on a commission locally, your Human Rights Commission is a logical place for somebody who is interested in human rights to serve and get their voice heard. And then you may find that you like it and seek higher office from there.
Additionally, we also have other ways to participate in raising trans voices and trans opinions, such as building up platforms like I'm doing with this podcast, putting your name on lists and bills to send your legislators to let them know that this is what you want to have happen in politics. And I know that I'm not built for politics, but I think I'm pretty funny. So I built a platform to get my words out, and you guys can do the same even if you're not super into politics.
Contacting your representatives is always a great option, and a lot of the information I have on bills that are currently out came from freedomforallamericans.org, which has a legislative tracker that can help you find all these things. We'll for sure put that in the episode description so that you can get to that information, and they have ways to contact your representatives so that you can fight these bills. The last thing I wanted to say was related to this. Sydney McElroy, who is someone that we follow, she's a podcaster. She is on Sawbones, which we both like, a medical history podcast, just announced today that she is running for the House of Delegates for West Virginia, where they live. And why I am so excited about that is Sydney, while a cis white woman, is a huge advocate for trans rights, and as a medical professional has really been a leading voice for what transgender healthcare should look like in this country. To think of her serving her state on the West Virginia House of Delegates is just, it's incredible to me. It would be a huge win for West Virginia.
Sydney as a trans person, I can say Sydney McElroy is an amazing source and speaker on trans issues for being cis. Sawbones, the medical history podcast that she and her husband Justin host, has had trans people on the podcast. They've talked about queer issues before. She does a very, very good job of talking about it eloquently and making sure that it is well understood. And I know that she is actively involved in her community as well, advancing trans and queer issues in West Virginia and Huntington, where she lives. So shout out to Sydney McElroy. I couldn't be more happy that she's running for West Virginia office.
Do you have gender euphoria tonight?
So I am still very new at my new job with Mayo. And as much as I have been super accepted and everything there, 12 hours sitting with the same people in a truck, going and dealing with people's emergencies can get really taxing.
It sounds sweaty.
It's very sweaty. No, I come home and I shower because I am doused in sweat. Very stinky too. At the end of the day, those trucks can get pretty rank. I have had so much good experience with the people who I'm working with about accepting me as a trans woman. 12 hours talking with patients and whatever, my voice really starts to wear down. And I also have to wear a uniform, and that uniform is not super flattering to my feminine figure. So overall, I have generally had people of my coworkers misgender me, but every single time they have corrected themselves. And if they haven't, then we've had a quick conversation about it, and they have fixed whatever the issue was. My main gender euphoria here, though, tonight is one of my coworkers. His name is Roger. He has been a paramedic. He was like the first paramedic in Minnesota. He's been doing this job for a very, very long time. He was misgendering me, and I was like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm a woman, and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I know that you're a woman, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. So later we were kind of sitting in the truck and whatever, and he leans over to me and he's like, okay, so I don't want to sound crude, but I need to ask, were you born a male? And I was like, yes, Roger. And so we had a quick conversation about it. And this is like, I don't know, a 65, 70-year-old man. Like, he's up there in age. But he was so accepting of it and just wanted to know more. And he didn't know the right way to ask the question, but he really wanted to know and wanted my input on it. And so, shout out to Roger. I love working with you. And also just like, good feelings, even when you're being misgendered. People can still be accepting and correct themselves.
Nice job,
Good
Roger.
job, Roger.
We have room for people who are willing to learn, even if they're misstepping.
Exactly.
I wanted to let everyone know we just launched a pre-order for our new merchandise. Woo! We've been talking about this for a while, and here's what we've got. We have a holographic hang it on your horse, your dad's dumb idiom from our very first episode, sticker designed by our very good friend Tessa. You can find Tessa at Tessa Rue Tattoo. That's TESSAROUX Tattoo on Instagram.
We'll link it.
We also have a titty sticker and a gender outlaw sticker, which was designed by yours truly.
All of these look so goddamn good, everybody. I was shown the hang it on your horse sticker and was ecstatic about it. And then my dad showed me the gender outlaw and the titty sticker, and I literally could not contain my excitement. So please, if you have at all enjoyed our podcast and you want to support us with some merch, these are amazing merch pieces. You can find all of it over at transgenderpod.com or on our Instagram page.
If you have questions about transitioning or supporting someone who is transitioning and you'd like to talk about it on the show, please shoot us an email at questions@transgenderpod.com.
Be sure to check out our episode description for links to resources on today's topics.
Thanks for listening. I've been Cam.
I've been Anna.
And this has been The Transgender.
Love you all, except the bigots.
Would you like to support our podcast? Well, you're in luck. We have a Patreon now. Just visit patreon.com/transgenderpod, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support the content that we're creating. And for $20 a month, you can join our Sticker Club, which provides you with a monthly live stream, a shout out on the podcast, and a sticker every month from ourselves and creators that we adore. Again, just visit patreon.com/transgenderpod, and thank you for all your support.